Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Mayor of Kingstown. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. I love the title of this episode, obviously very befitting all around, called The Price. I even love how that ties into what Mike and Kyle's mom was teaching in class about, like, that, what was it, like the whole South Pass situation. And it's like, would someone else have ever discovered that whole situation? It's like, yes, but would the current borders be what they are today? If it would America be the superpower that it is? Like, things wouldn't played out the way it did. It took that discovery then in that moment that set things up, because if someone else had discovered it at a later point in time, who knows what the structure of everything would even be. And that's very befitting, because it's like, Bunny made the point last episode of Mike. This is going to happen one way or another. It's just, the dam's all, you can only patch the dam so much before it busts. And then, we start it all over again. But it's like, yeah, this deal here and now, once again, sets the precedents for everything going forward. And so it's like, what are the borders going to... The borders are going to look different than how they would have been if someone else had set up this situation. To be fair, once again, the cops kind of put this on themselves, because they're the ones that said, we want this Kenny thing taken care of this way. Mike, again and again, stressed not to do this. It'd be easier just to pop them yourselves, but they didn't want to listen. They wanted it handled this way. And now Mike's stuck in the middle of literally everyone being like, as he's put it, everyone's with their hands out. Bunny hits him up. Pete hits him up. He goes to Bunny, and Bunny's like, all right, I want you to get some drugs over. He's like, no. The noose is already loosened a little bit. That should be enough. Like, no one's going to go. And Bunny's like, I don't like this either. The fact of the matter is, he's like, I don't want to be in the middle of this. And even Mike is like, yeah, you should keep your distance. And he was like, how am I supposed to keep my distance? I can't go 10 blocks without someone trying to kill me. It's like, what am I supposed to do? But it's the situation of, like, nobody, well, the only people who really wanted this was the cops. Because even Pete was like, don't do this. Bunny was like, it's going to happen sooner or later. This is just bound to happen. So, like, it benefits a lot of the criminal world, but, like, it's not good in the grand scheme of things, because Mike's juggling, trying to keep that balance. There's an equilibrium to Kingstown that he's trying to keep, because everyone's outreaching, being like, all right, because the guards and everything in prison are already looking the other way, not searching the girls as much, as people come in and stuff. Like, anytime, I guess, like any type of, like, conjugal visit, and like, oh, you get something passed to you, we look the other way type of situation. But it is starting, but it's, once again, it's heating up, even to the point Pete's like, yo, come to me, move me at the top of the list. And it's like, oh, where's Pete? Oh, he's in his office. Mike picks up, like, a drum and throws it through the glass, and Pete's like, what the hell was that for? He was like, like, I don't pick sides. You already know where I stand in this. I don't pick sides. So, Pete, I told them not to take the deal. I told them, but they wanted it this way. The fact of the matter is, if you don't come asking for something, you're gonna walk away with something. So, like, don't screw this up by asking for anything, because he shut Bunny down to be like, yo, like, don't ask for too much. Like, everyone's getting their little taste. Now that, like, things have loosened up a bit, that should be good enough. But then you have Bunny being like, what am I supposed to tell these, like, crazy motherfuckers? Like, wait till next week, when these motherfuckers are crazy enough they don't care about next week, so it's like, what am I supposed to do? And it's just like, Mike's kind of throws his hands in the air, like he's doing his best, because he ends up talking to Ed about, like, everyone having their hands out, and he's like, these motherfuckers, it's like, well, you guys agreed to this. He's like, all right, so the plan is to basically hit them back hard and put them back into place, and as Mike says, remind them what it was like before, how hard they had it before, and make them realize how good they got it now, and, stop holding your hand out asking for more. So they make a point. They, like, pepper spray, and the guy's got, like, marks all of his, I'm assuming that's from, like, the sandbag shots or whatever. The bruises he's got all over his body, probably just from the beat down in general. But they're like, yeah, that's why we supply you the soap, rub your face. And he was like, do you know why we did this to you? Because you asked for more, so don't. Granted, that seems like an opportunity for them to, like, oh, you're going to play like... Because that's the thing. And it's a point Mike makes at the end of the episode to Carlos. He's like, oh, you're all alone. He's like, no, I'm not. I have literally the biggest gang backing me. That gang has a fucking badge. Like, what are you going to do to that? Because no matter how powerful you are, this is a force you can't mess with. This is a gang that has government funding. It's a gang that outweighs you 10-1. They will rain down hell on you. Do not put yourself in that position. Mike doesn't want even to come to that, which I find ironic, considering Mike's like, oh, I don't pick sides. But I guess it's like, even though he's kind of backed by the police because what he does for the town as a whole. Once again, that's why the mayor, like, knows about, well, the mayor position that, like, Mitch and Mike hold, but it's like, didn't do anything about it because because of the equilibrium, what it brings to the town. So it's this very interesting structure Kingstown has. The only difference is its structure is a lot more on the surface than some places' structure of how things work. It's kind of, I feel like, it's like cartel level of like, oh, we're out in the open doing stuff because you can't do anything to us type of thing. It's pretty clear on the outskirts of like the dynamic of like how this town is run. But it's like, yeah, like nobody wants to piss the cops off. Like you don't want that smoke, essentially. He kind of just like, he had to talk to Carlos. Granted, he had Carlos arrested for like the child support. And then it's like, cool, I bailed you out. You owe me about $4,000. But, Carlos, because he talks about like he knew Mike, obviously from jail. They brought that up last episode. But he's also like, you used to run things, when it was kind of like, when the whites kind of like outnumbered everyone. But that was the point he was making to Pete. Because it's like, yeah, on the inside, like Pete, your guys are like 10-1. Like you don't have the force to like stand up to anyone else if you start getting like special treatment. But it was just like, right, just pay your dues, just do your thing, and not ask for anything, and you'll kind of be rewarded in the end for that. Like those who don't ask shall receive type of almost type of thing going on there. Now there's that line from Carlos when he was like, they should have never made the deal, and he was like, they never did. And Carlos is like, right. And then Mike's like, what, you never lied before? So I'm wondering, is that supposed to be significant in the regard of them being like, I think I'm missing something. Like maybe I didn't catch something last episode about like, did Mike make a separate deal with Carlos that he's like, oh no, I actually kind of lied about that just to kind of get the wheels turning for the deal that the cops want made. So he said like, oh, they co-signed something when in actuality they didn't. It's like, oh, you never lied before. He's like, yeah, lies just hit different when they're told to you. And he's like, it's funny how that works, isn't it? But I don't know if it's that or is it supposed to be like because I don't think it's the situation of like, oh, they never made the deal. Because that's what I'm like, I don't know if I'm misinterpreting it as like, oh, like Carlos was supposed to get something very specific, but Mike lied about it. Or is it supposed to be the cops never actually made the deal, so they're not going to be as adherent to it? Like, technically, me as the middleman, like, they're disavowing the deal that they made because technically I, the middleman, kind of made the deal, I shook all the hands, I was the mover and shaker in this respective regard. Or like, that's what I'm like, I feel like I'm definitely missing something to the context of that conversation. Like, I don't know. I guess like he was Carlos and then we're promised probably a little larger slice of the pie and stuff, but it's like, nah, you're literally, it's like, because the whole point was like, there is no line. No one gets first, no one gets second. It's like, no, everybody just stay in their lane. Everybody do their thing. Everything's going to be kosher. We keep things the way they are. I did love that his mom, it's like, oh, so have you talked to Kyle? And he was like, yeah. So did you hear about what? So I guess you haven't talked to him. He's like, Mom, I talk to him every day. And she punches him. Boom, 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 boom. Ow. And she's like, Tracy's pregnant. He's like, all right, great. That's great. But basically it's like, your brother needs to make the right choice. I need you to make him make the right choice. And he's like, what is that? And she's like, she's kind of so disappointed in him for not being able to tell like what the right choice would be. And even Kyle comes to visit him later because Kyle's being offered a position in narcotics. He goes from $45,000 a year to $70,000 a year. But even Mike is like, are you really sure you should be taking that? Because it's like the people he would be going up against. It's like Kingstown has only like, you've only been dealing with Kingstown criminals. There's only like a few good criminals in this, like people who are smart. Outside of that, like the people you be connected to, like the people who are running drugs, like up until like Canada and stuff. These are smart people. These are dangerous people, and nothing in Kingstown has like prepared you for the beast that would be that. Which is funny because that's actually like the exact terminology he used. I mean, me saying beast here is like that's what he said with Carlos. Of like you don't want to awaken that beast of getting like the full force of the whole police raining hell down upon you. I mean, granted, the Kenny situation should have been like a sign of that, considering like the fact is that everyone was on board about that Kenny thing, and then it happened. But it's also like, if they wanted to, they could really rain down hell. We've seen that time and time again, just in these couple episodes so far, of just like how far the cops are and how they do operate like a straight up gang. But circling back to it, it's like Kyle's not really sure what he's going to do. Because like Tracy's in school with the baby on the way. It's just like, obviously like his mom doesn't want him mixed up in anything that would ultimately, because it's like, right, doesn't want Tracy to end up a widow. Like, there's so much in this town that can make you a widow. Taking that job could definitely lead to him being a widow, but I guess it's like finding something else. There's also the whole bear situation, because I love that Kyle's like, oh, what's up with that bear? He's like, yeah, the bear doesn't understand it. He's like, I don't even understand it. Yeah, you don't understand it, but you know what it is. Like, it seems like it's like another bear, and I guess he sprayed something on it, because like the bear's coming over licking, because it's like, oh, are you another bear? Like, wait, you smell, like, you don't really smell. What is this? So I guess that's it. I was expecting more grease and fries out there, but I guess this is supposed to be like the next substitute and stuff. Like, I'm like, why are you doing? I guess it's like he's just like in tune with the bear and stuff like that. And that bear's gonna get killed. Somebody's gonna pop up on that land. Either somebody's gonna try and come for Mike, and the bear's gonna kill them, or they're gonna kill the bear in the process. I know that bear's not gonna be around. I mean, that bear's symbolic of a lot of stuff for Mike, but I'm curious. I just don't think that bear's gonna make it, which is gonna be horrible. Because it's like, oh, that bear looks adorable. Yes, I know it's a ferocious animal that will eat you and it'll rip you apart. Once again, it's still kind of adorable. But I'm like, I wonder if that might, am I getting it twisted because of Winnie the Pooh or Little Bear or Baloo? Like, are those cartoon bears that I grew up with twisting my notion of like how I see them? See a bear or something like that, Rebecca does tell Mike that they actually need to start taking on clients because he's been dealing with stuff that's not necessarily like productive to the business. They're not making any money. And obviously she's kind of telling him about, not drinking, because like the way Mitch was able to make this work is he never took it personal. And, will that be Mike's undoing, or will that be how he makes this work better for him? I don't know. But he's like, right, I appreciate you staying on afterwards, but it's kind of like what goes on in my cup is kind of my damn business. And she's like, fair enough. So, but they are going to try and work in some clients, which one of the said clients that came in was Iris. I was actually super shocked that she was super upfront about who she was. She's like, Milo sent me, and it's like, because I guess it's like if she lied, she knew that Mike would see through it. Like, oh, like me rolling here means I'm here for someone else, like, because he was already having sex with. I don't know if she's like a courtroom, like someone who works in the court system or whatever, or maybe she's a lawyer or something like that. Because Mike is like, oh, like you want to go grab lunch or something. She's like, I can't be seen with you. Like, yeah, the cops like have that relationship with him, but it's like, no. My situation is going to be judged if I'm seen with you. Because it's like, oh, what do you think this is going to be? Something like, oh, we can bang it out in the bathroom or maybe like a seedy motel, but I'm not going to be seen in public with you. Like, what that's going to... So, like, yeah, being the mayor has its downside because it's like, no one's going to, like, your dating life is going to be a mess. That's where I think the Iris thing is going to come in, but I didn't expect it to turn out like this because... Like, she's like, Milo sent me. He just wants you to be happy. Like, oh, did you guys have a fight? She's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, and like, what's going to make me happy? She's like, you can fuck me if you want. And then he's just like, you know what makes me mad? That, like, he sends some 20-year-old. She's like, well, I'm 22. But for him, it's like, I'll give you a year. She's like, what? To live. And he's like, why would you say that? Because for him, it's like, this town is filled to the brim with wolves and a few rabbits. And she's like, I'm a rabbit. He's like, yeah. She's like, I'm stronger than you think I am. And he was like, no, you're not. Like, the fact is, he's like, where are you from? And she's like, oh, I came from, no, where are you from? And she's like, oh, that's none of your damn business. He's like, whatever it is, go back. Do not get mixed up in this. You tell Milo that we had fun. She's like, we could have actually had fun. Like, but for Mike, it's like, I give people advice. And for him, it's like, because Iris doesn't know the dynamic of, like, what she walked into. Like, this all happened, like your situation led to my brother getting killed. Like, yes, that wasn't necessarily on Milo, but Milo's the one that asked for the money, and it's just like, and then also afterwards, you want to almost put pressure on me to blame me for your money getting stolen after my brother was murdered. You don't show any respect. You don't apologize. It's like, no, you had your goon step to me, and I had to put him in his place. You know, once again, he has to constantly remind people, I'm not who you think I am. Don't get it twisted. Like, he comes from a very different breed than Mitch did. Mitch handled things a very certain way. Mike was in prison. It hardened him and made him who he is. And maybe because of his position, and because he was in jail, because you had to fight for what you got in there. Like, apparently, based on what Carlos said, he kind of ran things for a while. So maybe because of that mentality, it's definitely going to make him run being the mayor a lot different than his brother did, you know? But like I said, I just wasn't expecting, like, both Iris's honesty and that, because I figured the point was, like, Milo wanted someone. He knew, like, Iris is how you get to someone. Like, because I was like, oh, you're not trying to make him happy. You're just trying to get to him. Like, I thought the whole point was, like, oh, to manipulate him. But even she said, like, I told you the truth. And I was like, I'm surprised. I thought you were going to lie out your teeth, but I guess it's like, right, eventually he probably would have looked into it and found out she worked for Milo, so it's better to be honest. Like, not unless this is Iris's ploy to be like, right, have you turn me down, and then I'm always going to be in the back of your mind, especially being like, I don't know, whether he genuinely comes to her later on, or whether it's a thing of, honestly, like, this was all a ploy, like, that she's just that good at it. It's a mind game. She shows up there being truthful to you, and then you appreciate that honesty later on when he realizes he kind of has no one to turn to, and something happens between the two. You know, that's when I'm like, I don't know. Because she did seem legitimately hurt by what he said, but I just don't know if that's a ploy or not. I get the feeling like it could be, but I feel like it's a toss-up of whether that was sincerity or whether that was all part of the manipulation. So, but at the very least, it's like, yeah, tell Milo, like, we had fun, everything was good. That way, Milo doesn't get mad at you, like, you did your job, just, like, go home, like, do not get mixed up in anything here in Kingstown. This place will... I mean, maybe he wasn't just referring to Kingstown, he probably just means this world, people like Milo. There's too many wolves around for rabbits like you to be eaten up, so... But her line of, like, oh, I'm stronger than you think I am, maybe that's going to be very indicative of later points in the show where it's like, oh yeah, like, she's not the helpless bunny that you think she is or something, you know, so we'll see how things kind of roll on that front. Other than that, there was that little scene with, Mike and Kyle's mom at the prison when she's going to go teach, and obviously, like, some of the prisoners kind of locked up, and it turns into a brawl, so her, as well as the other teacher who was teaching beforehand, kind of got stuck in there, and it's just like, great, now we're stuck in here, and then their mom is like, well, I don't know how that's relevant. She's like, well, it means I won't be able to pick, like, the daycare, I won't be able to pick my kids up when they get out. That's why it's relevant. And then while, like, she's reading a book, and the other lady's just like, how is it relevant? Who the fuck do you think you are, under her breath? And I guess it's kind of like because I guess she thought, like, oh, like, it's like, right, you're talking about someone's circumstances, and you, like, who are you to talk about someone's circumstances? And I guess maybe it kind of make her take a step back to look at her own situation of, like, because I guess for her, it's just like, oh, like, because for her, it's like, I think from her perspective, it seemed like her being like, oh, like, I can't believe we're going to be locked in here waiting because of all this. I think she was like, why are you acting like, oh, this is such an impediment to your time? But it's like, yeah, you're making that point not knowing what her circumstances is. Yeah, I got to pick up my little kids. Like, relevant? Like, who the fuck do you think you are to talk about what's relevant to me? You don't know my life. Like, she probably shouldn't have said that. So, I don't know if that's supposed to be a little indicative of maybe she's not looking at everything from a relative standpoint when it comes to everything with Mike and Kyle. Like maybe she's looking at things from her point of view and not looking at things from a relative point of view, of just kind of like seeing things from another side, being in someone else's shoes. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be significant of. Once again, I could be totally misreading that situation. Another situation in the episode, I was kind of like, well, because Kyle is getting pizza for Ian, and it turns out like, oh, he feels like there's someone that's like antsy, like they might be like on drugs or whatever, and they might be like trying to case the joint. And the entire time he's like got his eyes on it. The place is packed, and it's like, right, we don't want stuff to go sideways. So they wait for the place to clear. Ian comes in with a gun aimed at the guy that's a little twitchy. Because at first it seemed like, right, if there were more than one person, it would just be things would have gone differently. It's just this one person. But then the guy behind the counter that was at the register most of that scene is like, oh, he pulls up the gun. I was like, not surprised. I was like, he kept looking over. That's why I was like, shouldn't he be the one? Like, are they both in this together? But it turns out home dude wasn't. Like, shots got fired. Home dude missed Ian, and both Ian and Kyle lit him up. Now, I don't know whether it's supposed to be, once again, I didn't know if that was supposed to be interpreted as, like, this was a setup. Someone was gunning for them. They wanted, like, a cop to, like, they were trying to, like, pop off and kill some cops type of situation. Or was it a thing of he saw Ian creeping up and he was like, yo, I don't know who this dude is. And he tried to defend the place because he thought, like, yo, you up to some shady stuff. And they ended up killing an innocent guy that was trying to do... I don't know, because at the end of it all, Ian's just like, fuck. And it's like, asking Kyle, you good? And Kyle's like, I'm good. You got hit? He's like, no. And the guy that they thought was going to rob the place, he's like, sir, He's like, shut the fuck up. And it's like, so that's why I'm like, either they completely misread the scene and didn't realize it was a setup, or it's just, like I said, an innocent person got killed. The next episode will give us context for it, but I'm not sure... what to make of it. I think it's meant to be an impactful scene for Kyle, because it's just like, right, kind of like his brother told him, like, of like, nothing in Kingstown really prepared you for like the job in narcotics you think, like, because you completely misread this situation. You were so focused on this dude, you didn't even see the potential threat that guy was going to be. So that's why I'm like, once again, someone can easily clarify for me, but like, I didn't know how to really interpret that scene that way. But we had that other guy in there just being like, I hate the city. It's like, yeah, I can understand considering all of that. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.